Lauren Boebert has been making some media rounds recently. And here she is talking about the Biden administration finally officially declaring a state of emergency for monkeypox, which unlocks some powers and an ability for the federal government to respond as cases continue to climb. Naturally, right-wingers have seen this as an opportunity to attack gay people. And of course, because there's this muscle memory about COVID being a planned-demic, anytime there is some sort of public health emergency, it's conspiracy time for the Republicans. And no one personifies that more than Lauren Boebert.
Emergency. Congresswoman, I'm going to go to you first on this. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, just like you said, they're not canceling exactly where the outbreaks are taking place. But go back to COVID. They shut down our churches. They shut down our schools. They shut down our businesses, our grocery stores. It was absolutely insane. Everything, the entire planet was shut down over this. And we know exactly what causes this monkeypox, and they're not doing anything. No, actually, you're a bigot if you talk about it.
Right.
And I think it's interesting. We have midterm elections coming up, and suddenly there's a new health emergency from the federal government. President Ronald Reagan, I'm not looking for zombie Reagan to come and save America, but he really did say it best. He said, the most dangerous words are, I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help.
Yeah, idiot.
Emergency.
Okay, dumb.
Yeah, try experiencing a flood, you idiot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talk about... I'm pretty sure that the people in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina would have welcomed some federal help. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm the government and I'm here to help you with this flood damage.
So there's a lot not there, but there is something interesting that I would like to point out. When did these lockdowns happen during the pandemic?
Well, that's what is always so interesting and why it's unbelievable that supposed members of the left got caught up in this, like everything was shut down sort of thing. No, not everything was shut down. I could always go into a grocery store and buy groceries. There was some supply issues early on because of stopping people going from work. But first of all, you look at per capita deaths, America is absolutely horrible. We killed way more people than we should have with even what we did do. We should have had way more, like countries like in Asia would have people come to your house and bring you food if you were sick, because like I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of things that we didn't do. And the only thing that they're upset about is that you couldn't go into Applebee's. And that was really tough on certain small business owners. And that's who this is speaking about. They like
She's one of them.
Exactly. And they like to pretend like I'm worried about the people most affected by the pandemic. Well, the people most affected, i.e. Working people, poor people, they support all this stuff. They are not anti-lockdown at all. They just thought they should have got more support from the government, actually not less. It is the small business owners who, by the way, got a whole bunch of money just from a giant slush fund given to them during that, and they should be fine. And now they're worried because like losing a whole bunch of like hundreds of thousands of people, up to 1 million people in this country, plus an economic shutdown has and workers having a little bit more leverage. Like that's the real authoritarianism that they're experiencing. These business owners is that workers are the great resignation. Like that's what all this stuff is filtering in a pseudo populist way, but this is the National Restaurant Association.
Yeah. Same people who, by the way, are pushing the crime wave and also real estate groups narrative that is not really that connected to facts, particularly when you take the pandemic into account. And
actually, I think the crime stuff is like real estate. I think is probably like shut up about the crime stuff, but that's another small business sort of thing. And part of it is, I mean, look, when people say crime, they mean the
homeless people being
exactly.
outside of our properties. That's why I said real estate, but I guess you're right. If, particularly in like cities and stuff, they might want to downplay it.
Exactly, and it's kind of like that's what people mean. I mean, there's a small rise in certain types of crime that one would expect when a pandemic and government shutdown happens, and especially when people are left out without like things like healthcare. We should have expanded though that's I'm the government and I'm here to extend everyone universal healthcare during this pandemic would have been popular.
Of course, and we've gone over why the Democrats only wanted to extend COBRA subsidies, which was way more inefficient and more costly, because if you crack the door open on a Medicare expansion, then people might want that for sure.
Yeah, and we know how people like Boebert would talk about that.
And like, again, my point at the beginning of this was the strictest lockdowns happened under Trump. In 2020, when we didn't have vaccines and when the pandemic was at its most unpredictable. And so, like, that is when these things happened. And so their conspiracy is that now when Democrats are in power and in charge of the federal government, they will create a fake pandemic to scare people into voting for them again, when honestly, it's super clear, in my opinion, that Biden would have likely lost. It's just my guess, or at the very least, had an even harder time defeating Trump if the pandemic had not been a thing. The pandemic and the people responded to who was in power and said, "You're doing a bad job with this, and we want you out of here."
Trump got COVID, and he was actually scared about it, you idiots. Like, the idea that it's a fake is just, I mean...
No, monkeypox is fake now.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
But it's also a gay disease punishing the gays.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it's not sexually transmitted. It is transmitted from vigorous, skin-to-skin, person-to-person contact, which often does... mean it's transmitted through sex, but it can be transmitted in a variety of other ways because of that.
And when school comes back, Republicans are setting the table for accusing or insinuating that the infections that are going to happen at school, because we got to open the schools no matter what, even if the teachers are sick. I just asked Jimmy Dore about the Chicago teachers.
Grooming teachers.
When kids start getting sick about monkeypox, their response will be, "This is the groomer thing part 2, and libs at TikTok will be all over it."